Grinders. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka BlenderHD, BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Wednesday, October 18th. And we'll be taking a look at the first look at the NFL Week 7 slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. Give me those thumbs here in the morning. Wake up, everybody. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Good morning to everyone in the chat. Feel free to post your questions, your comments, anything you'd like to talk about. We will answer it. Joined, like it's seemingly every Wednesday, it's Derek Farnsworth, a.k.a. Notorious, or simply Noto. I don't know if you've looked at the Week 7 NFL slate yet, but looks pretty bleak.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Got my caffeine with me, ready to roll. And yeah, Week 7, man. Pulled it up last night. Did my initial CVR, my rankings for every position, and I was like, oh man, I found like 3 guys that I want to play at each position. So yeah, this should be a fun one. And unfortunately, we have a ton of injuries to work through too.
Right. We'll talk about that on today's show. You can see the NFL schedule and Vegas lines in the first look, which is a free article here on RotoGrinders. So go to rotogrinders.com and check it out. Obviously, we'll have all the premium content this week, like Noto's core, personnel. You got the GPP articles. You got the GPP videos. You got projections. You got ownership. You got lineup HQ. You got the top stacks tool. You got the sim tool, the showdown stuff. You got so much stuff. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month, or join us in the Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. I say it's bleak because we take a look at the first look. Seems like PMR is going to be we'll talk about the kind of the situations to monitor with our initial projections that came out today. I mean, we got 37.5 total, 41.5, 39.5, 38.5, 41.5. And then once you get to the late set of games, the 6 early, 4 late, then it kind of comes up. It's like 44.5, 42.5, 49.5, 45.5. It projects to be a low-scoring week. Obviously, on Friday, I'll have Squirrel Patrol up, and we'll talk about GPP team stacks and game stacks. But those injuries situations that we're talking about, I first want to hit on the situation for the Rams. Okay, we saw Kyren Williams. He's going to be out till possibly like week 11. We saw with Williams getting injured, Ronnie Rivers, he's also not going to play. They have a rookie, 6th round rookie, Zach Evans, who was the 3rd running back who came in after that. But they have Royce Freeman on the practice squad. Zach Evans is 4K on DraftKings. We currently have him projected for 11 median points. I mean, if we take a look, we have him splitting usage, but getting the bulk over Royce Freeman. How fragile is this situation? Do you think that the Rams are more likely or less likely to rely heavily on a rookie than someone like Royce Freeman, who doesn't need to even know like much of the playbook? He's just going to kind of run straight forward. Are you comfortable even at the cheap price of 4K? Playing into what could be, double-digit owned Zach Evans?
Yeah, I'll probably let ownership dictate my exposure to Evans. You mentioned, with Royce Freeman being on the roster, they also have Myles Gaskin. So we could see a time split there. It's not a good matchup against the Steelers. They are at home. We know Sean McVay does like to use one running back primarily. That's kind of why they got rid of Akers. So there's a path for Evans, but the matchup's bad. We know they want to throw the ball a ton. Stafford's been dropping back a bunch since Cooper Kupp has gotten back from injury. And if he's going to be double-digit owned, I'll take my chances elsewhere. We have plenty of value on the slate.
Well, my attitude when you mentioned that Sean McVay tends to like ride with one running back, that makes a very good GPP situation.
Yeah.
Where they're both 4K. Like you have Zach Evans at 4K, you got Royce Freeman at 4K. That, I mean, if it was the type of thing where it was a complete time split, it's quite possible that neither of them even get there enough at 4K. They both have 8 points. and you're like, okay, it's doable, but not great. But it's quite possible that one of these guys get 23 touches, right? That Sean McVay just says, you're doing well, stay out there, and they completely break the slate. The problem is, which one is that going to be? So I could see a situation in GPPs to play some lineups with Evans, play some lineups with Royce Freeman, maybe play some lineups with Myles Gaskin, doing something like that. And if you have a read, feel free to play one more than the other. Currently, we have Evans with more of a workload than Freeman, but obviously that situation can change. Does this DFIC in the chat says, does this make Cooper Kupp look even better?
I mean, he looked good no matter what. So yeah, I think he's a strong play regardless, especially we're probably going to have a lot of value at quarterback, probably going to have a lot of value at running back. So without a lot of studs on the slate, Cooper Kupp knows 15 targets most likely. Yeah, I think he's a really strong option.
Let's go to another situation. Let's go to Detroit. They're going to Baltimore. David Montgomery is going to be out. He's out. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's on track to come back. He's been out for the past 2 weeks. He's 6,300, and obviously he fits a profile that we like especially on DraftKings, full point PPR. Expected more to catch balls out of the backfield. Detroit playing on the road, outdoors, and that may matter a little bit for Jared Goff. So maybe he sees a little bit more action in the receiving game. 6,300 for Gibbs. You're not getting him it's not like cheap or anything. But there's also Craig Reynolds there at 4,900. And, when Montgomery went out and Gibbs wasn't available, they didn't mind using Craig Reynolds. I mean, even as a pass catcher. I mean, he was catching balls out of the backfield also. If Gibbs is in, are you more inclined to play him, more inclined to play Reynolds, or more inclined to just stay away altogether?
I will have some interest in Gibbs, but man, they've already limited his workload early in the season. And now he's coming off of an injury, a hamstring injury, no less. So he could easily tweak that. And you mentioned the last time Montgomery was out was in week 3. He only had 2 targets and 1 reception. They kind of used him as the early down guy. He had 17 carries. And then they used Reynolds a lot as the third down back. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully if Gibbs is out, then it's kind of easy. You just play Reynolds. He would have a pretty big workload. Another spot where it's a tough matchup for the running back. They probably will be trailing in this game against Baltimore. So not a must play for me, but the slate doesn't have as many options as you might like to see at running back.
Right, because it's only a 10-game slate. We have the bye weeks.
Yeah.
And another situation, we keep on going through, the Bears. Okay, so Herbert is at, I mean, their running back room is a hospital essentially. I mean, they're just meeting in the ER in the waiting room. But Roschon Johnson is probably going to clear the concussion protocol that he was out for last week. You saw last week they used Foreman and Evans fairly equally, right? People suspected maybe Deontay Foreman was going to get a bulk of the work, and now they mixed in Darrington Evans plenty. With Roschon Johnson coming back, I'm going to have the same situation when it came to Detroit and when it comes to the Rams. If Roschon Johnson is in, do you expect Roschon Johnson to be the bulk guy? Because we're talking about he's the second or third running back when everyone is healthy. Or do you think that they keep all 3 running backs active and it becomes a situation where, yeah, these guys are cheap, 4,600, 4,800 for Foreman. We got Darrington Evans at 4K. Maybe he's the least appealing out of the options. Are you rushing to play Roschon Johnson at 4,600 when the Bears with a 17 implied total, possibly with Justin Fields not playing? I don't know. That may actually be a bump.
Yeah.
What's your prognosis on these Bears running backs?
Of all the situations we've talked about so far, I think this one's probably my favorite. A lot of people around the team have said Roschon Johnson is eventually going to take over as the RB1 over Herbert at some point this season. And obviously Herbert's out. He's coming off of a concussion, so it's not like a hamstring injury that he could tweak or anything like that. So we're kind of expecting Johnson to get a bigger workload as the season goes on. Deontay Foreman, much to my dismay, did not get the workload that we were hoping for last week. And then we had to watch Badgett sneak in from the one after Foreman got tackled at the one. That was pretty tilting. But yeah, I mean, I think Roschon Johnson's going to be my favorite. If he's out again, then I'll have less interest just because it's probably going to be another 50-50 split between Foreman and Johnson or Evans. But yeah, I think Roschon's a really good play, good matchup at home. And you mentioned Phil's probably going to be out. That might be good for his workload.
Are there any other spots on this slate as far as cheap value that could be not as good as what it seems? Because I mean, I think those are the three main ones. The injury report, I mean, we currently injury tags don't have many. I mean, I don't think Alec Pierce matters that much for the Colts. Projection wise, we have Baltimore projecting pretty well. I'm not a huge fan. It always NOTO. It always worries me when I look at I sort by RGV, which is like salary adjusted value, which you could use in the projections. Typically, that means that they're the better projected place for their price. But I mean, the disparity between some of these is minimal, a point. 5,600 Ramondre Stevenson as a home 9.5 underdog. I mean, it's that type of slate where, I mean, we talked about the 4K guys that are in injury spots. The Buffalo-New England game, Buffalo has a 25 implied total. Do you really want to play Patriots? I mean, it comes down to Kendrick Bourne looks like a value. He got like 9 targets on like one drive. I mean, I know that it's easy. I mean, we have Head Chopper in here with the note here in Lineup HQ. It's like, yeah, found the end zone last week. Finally the Patriots score a touchdown. Buffalo's given up a lot of yards on the ground. How enthused are you to play possible Ramondre Stevenson chalk?
Yeah, the chalk part doesn't sound great, but week 5 we saw a pretty even split between Ezekiel Elliott and Stevenson, and then last week, even though Stevenson got hurt, he ended up getting a lot more work than Zeke. Zeke did have a long touchdown called back, but yeah, they're going to be trailing. Stevenson's pretty good pass catching back, and 5,600 is a pretty good price point, so he'll be on my list of potential targets. But it's an ugly week. Yeah, you mentioned the RG value right now: Rachaad White, Stevenson, Zach Evans, all in the top 5. It's pretty bad at running back.
Well, one guy that stands out in the top 5 that's a little bit more expensive, I think the team is going to be fairly popular on a slate with, very low totals, is the Seahawks at home with a 26 implied total. That for this slate, that is healthy. I mean, that is, I believe, the second highest on the slate. We have Buffalo at 25. We got the Chiefs obviously at 27, which is kind of a little bit low for them. Typically, they're playing the Chargers. But Seattle, 26 implied team total. We got Kenneth Walker at running back at 7K. Probably are able to afford him on this type of slate with, not much to choose from. I think Geno Smith is going to be a popular choice, maybe even in cash games. I think you're probably playing like Lamar if you pay up or Geno if you pay down. The wide receiver ownership, we don't have the ownership currently listed, but Lockett and Metcalf are priced decently, right? Lockett at 6K, Metcalf at 6,800. How interested are you in eating? Like, there's a big difference between eating a Chiefs chalk or Dolphins chalk and stuff like that than Seattle against the Cardinals, who haven't looked awful at times. They've actually looked halfway decent.
So they have the first few weeks, but the last couple, they've kind of turned into the team that we thought they would be. If you look at their season-long numbers, 31st in total defensive DVOA, bottom 4 against the pass, bottom 4 against the run, 29th in fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks, 30th to running backs, 26th to receivers. So they're basically one of the best matchups possible. Seattle at home. I think it's a really good spot for their whole team. The problem is the ownership. but yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good spot for Kenneth Walker. And then if you want to play the full-on slot, I certainly don't mind it. There are some interesting bringbacks from Arizona in Marquise Brown, or if you want to take a chance on their running back room, which is another ugly situation, maybe Zach Ertz. We saw Trey McBride actually get more snaps than Zach Ertz. I don't know if you rostered any of Ertz, but you cannot tell the difference between those two when they're on the field. They're 85 and 86. They both run the exact same. They look, and so you think you're getting a catch from Ertz, and then you find out when he gets tackled that it's not him. It's pretty frustrating.
Well, no, you could always tell by how long the ball has been in the air.
That's true.
Right? Because like if the ball has been in the air for more than like 2 seconds, which means it's like 15 yards down the field, it's like that's probably McBride. The ball's been in the air for about half a second and it's been 3 yards. That's probably Zach Ertz.
That's a good point.
The other team that's going to be chalky, like I mentioned before, probably the Ravens. I mean, price-wise, I mean, it's quite, appealing. We have in RGV in projection, our initial projections, 2 of the top like salary adjusted values on the slate. Mark Andrews at tight end, 5,700. I mean, a lot of people like punting at tight end, but I mean, it's kind of a weak week. Zay Flowers, 5,700. We've seen him get, 7, 8 plus targets. I know the Detroit defense isn't bad, but with, playing outdoors, right? That's a whole narrative thing. The running back situation for the Lions, they may not, move the ball as well. How interested in you are a lot of these weeks? It's weird. The first 6 weeks of the season, typically Raven stacks have been contrarian because we've had Tua on the slate. I mean, obviously we have Josh Allen also on the slate. We've had Hurts on the slate. We've had value stacks, Joe Burrow or Stafford or something like that. Lamar is 7,600, and pairing him with Andrews and Flowers is, I mean, especially if you're going to play a guy like Zach Evans or Roshan Johnson in your lineup. I mean, it's doable. I mean, you may not be able to play Kupp in this type of lineup or Keenan Allen or someone towards the top, Stephon Diggs. Are you more or less inclined? I mean, these guys are legitimately, I mean, truthfully, all 3 of them, Lamar, Andrews, and Flowers are cash viable. And typically, I'm not the type of receiver that Zay Flowers is not, not cash-ish, right? A little bit higher variance.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to pay up for Lamar on a slate where there's going to be like possibly limited scoring, do you think that's advantageous? Because Lamar's the type of quarterback where if he runs the ball for 70, 80 yards and scores with his legs, that there's not many other quarterbacks on this slate that could put up like 35 points at quarterback. Do you think it's a little bit more of a priority on a low scoring slate in general that you kind of want to play one of the only big rushing quarterbacks that we have to roster?
Yeah, I generally lean towards the mobile quarterbacks. It's early in the week, but I currently have Lamar ranked number 1 in my CVR. You mentioned the rushing upside. Over the last 5 weeks, 54, 101, 27, 45, and 62 rushing yards. He's not going to throw for the 6,000 that he said in the preseason or whatever it is. Todd Monken doesn't have this passing offense, clicking like he wanted it to. But, yeah, I mean, it's a good spot. They have a high total. There's very few quarterbacks with the same ceiling as him. And it just seems like all the Ravens are $500 too cheap on DraftKings. Is that just me?
Well, the main ones, I mean, I'm not a big fan of playing like OBJ.
No,
right?
Yeah.
Or even Bateman. I mean, I'd rather take a shot on like someone like Nelson Aguilar possibly. But I think I'd rather just leave it to the main guys like Lamar, Andrews, Flowers, and I'm done and I'm good. And dude, with Lamar's rushing upside, you don't even have to double stack him. So if you want to play a cheap tight end in order to fit in another high-end wide receiver, like just playing Lamar plus Flowers, I mean, dude, just playing Lamar. I mean, just naked Lamar is doable on this slate. So I'm kind of with you. I just want to see what the ownership is going to be like. It's not one of these types of situations like last week where, the Dolphins are very high owned. And I'm like, yeah, they're still not high owned enough because they just score too many damn points that I still want to roster them at that ownership. I don't think the Ravens fit into that mold.
Yeah, I agree.
The two highest team totals on the slate we didn't mention. We got the second one, well, the third highest, technically. We mentioned the Seattle. Buffalo. We look at the Buffalo projections. It doesn't look, they have a 25 implied team total, which is a little below average for them going into New England. I mean, do you think that Allen, Diggs, I mean, they're expensive. How much interest do you have in the Bills? I don't think anyone, I mean, other than maybe Stevenson, I don't think anyone's really like cash viable in this game. But I mean, the Bills could go out and put up 30 plus points. The Patriots don't look very good. But do you think that the pace of this game, like, it relies on Buffalo steamrolling the Patriots? Because I don't think Bill Belichick wants Mac Jones to be going through sustained drives or anything like that. I think they want to run that play clock as low as possible to get the least amount of plays in this game to avoid mistakes. So how much interest do you have in the Bills at a 25 implied team total?
I like the Bills. The problem with the Bills is outside of Diggs and Allen, who are you playing that you trust? All their receivers are inconsistent. Maybe Gabe Davis has the ceiling you're looking for in tournaments. The running back room is scary. Latavius Murray actually got the start the other night over James Cook, and James Cook just hasn't gotten any goal line work, so that's a concern. Maybe you can play Dawson Knox if Dalton Kincaid's out again. I think he's still questionable. But, yeah, I mean, if I'm going to play the Bills, it's just going to be Allen and Diggs. Pretty simple for me. And then maybe bring it back with Bourne or Stevenson, something like that.
The other game, the high total, is the Chiefs. And we talk about the Chiefs every week. If you're going to stack with Mahomes, you have to just, like, take all of the players on the Chiefs, put them into a bowl, right? And then just randomly select like two of them and just go, I hope these two people get there. I mean, Rashee Rice has looked better. We have him as the highest projected receiver. Kadarius Toney's 3,800. Valdez Scantling's 3,200. Sky Moore's 3,600. Like, these guys are cheap. Obviously, Kelsey's expensive at 8K. I think Pacheco at 6,100 is going to be quite chalky in the running back position, especially if there's not any definitive type of projection on like the Zach Evans and the Roshan Johnsons. If there's a lot of like, we're not sure what's going to happen, and maybe you don't have that value at running back. I could see like Kenny Walker and Pacheco be higher owned at the running back position. Are you? I mean, my attitude is, especially on this slate, I think Kansas City is going to be fairly chalky because people are going to just rush towards like where are the teams that are going to score points. But outside of Kelsey, who is expensive, and probably Pacheco also, like what do you do? I mean, I think I've always said this season that if you just never stack Mahomes and just move on with your life and play other teams, you probably come out of the end of the season profitable. But it's going to be such a low-scoring week based on these totals that the Chiefs-Chargers game is by far the best game environment on the entire slate. That game could score 70 points. The problem is, if the game scores 70 points, where the hell do the points go? NOTO. You're on mute. You're still on mute, or your microphone's dead. Nope. They don't want you to talk about the Chiefs. Nota's going to go fix his microphone. Right? Can't give out the secret about the Chiefs. Where's the ball actually going to go? Okay, I think I can hear you now on the other camera. Can you hear me now, Noto? He's fixing stuff.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't on mute. I don't know if I don't know. Unplugged it, replugged it back in, but
yeah, that's all. That's all you need to do. Just turn it on and off again. Who
like
cares?
The old NES cartridges, you used to have to blow into them.
The DFS spy service has cut off your microphone because they do not want you to tell the audience the secret about the Kansas City Chiefs. Who do you play?
Okay, so yeah, my first reaction was play Pacheco and don't worry about anyone else, really. I'm kind of with you, and you don't have to stack Mahomes every week. Kelsey, his career splits against Derwin James when Derwin James has been active for the Chargers have been pretty bad. Now, Kelsey's one of those guys that is always a scary fade, and he has had a very good season, but I'm okay being underweight there. I'm okay being underweight on Mahomes. The best way to move the ball against the Chiefs or against the Chargers has been on the ground. So I like that. And then on the other side, Chiefs have been pretty good at covering wide receiver ones this season. We saw them shut down Justin Jefferson. So maybe it's a decent spot to be underweight on Keenan Allen too. Is this too crazy, just being underweight on this game?
No, I'm fine with that. I think the most appealing piece in this whole game is Josh Palmer at 4,800.
And D-Fix saying T-Swift hatred incoming. Are you not a T-Swift?
Yeah. Well, what's going on with that? Kelsey had a good game. She was there, right? It's in Kansas City. I mean, I've been petitioning Jamino to add an extra column for the Taylor Swift bump. I don't know where that is in the projections, but I don't know. Is this a Taylor Swift boost? It seems like that if we take a look at the trend, I think if anything, she has more of a negative effect.
Yeah, I mean he gets more screen time. Does that count for fantasy points?
I don't think we get points for that.
Ah, darn.
Right.
And
because if it was that, we'd roster that woman from the Chargers from the Chargers game.
I just saw that
her in the tight end spot because there's nothing else to play at the tight end spot.
I saw that yesterday, and I didn't know what it was from, but I guess I missed it.
Deepak says Palmer's showing over 20% ownership. Well, I mean, not currently on RotoGrinders. We have not run our initial run of ownership, or maybe we have, and I have to just reload it. Obviously, ownership's going to be fluid. I mean, I don't even bother kind of even looking at any type of initial ownership projection this early. Okay, yeah. So if I run it again, right? Okay, so we can even take a look at what we currently have based on our projections on Wednesday for ownership overall. Yeah, I mentioned Josh Palmer at 4,800. It seems like he's going to be he's going to be the stone cold chalk. He's the highest owned player that we have in our projections outside of, quarterback like Allen, Smith, Jackson. I get it here. Are you okay? So maybe that's the question. Are you interested in playing Josh Palmer chalk?
Oh, well, I was hoping everyone would play Keenan Allen so I could play Josh Palmer. But if that's not going to be the case, then maybe it's a Quentin Johnson week. How much is he?
Yeah, but Quentin John, he didn't even see nothing. I had his under, so I was good. Everyone was touting him. He had a 3.5 reception prop, a 3 on underdog, and 34.5. I just went, get out of here.
Yeah, he's been pretty bad. So I don't know.
Other chalky guys here that I see here that seem to stick out. Wan'Dale Robinson, 3,800 against the Commanders. Doesn't matter who plays quarterback for him. I mean, Daniel Jones versus Tyrod Taylor. The thing about Wan'Dale Robinson is that, like, how does he kill me?
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like if you need value in a cash lineup, I think 3,800 is fine. But, like, if he's going to be like 15, 16, 18%, 12%, like in that range, I just feel as if, like, the last time that he was chalk at 3K, like, I didn't play him in EPP lineups outside of, like, it was a Dolphins stuff. I played Dolphins Onslaught, like a whole thing because he was in the game. I mean, I view him the same way as like the difference between him and Zach Ertz is that, yeah, I know Zach Ertz, very low ADOT, right? He rarely is going to kill you, but he's also at a position that doesn't have much ceiling to begin with. So getting a Zach Ertz 2-catch, 12-yard, 1-touchdown game, like, sure, that's pretty good at the tight end position, but at the wide receiver position, the opportunity cost is just so high that how much interest do you even have in the Giants Commanders game to begin with?
I might have some interest in Saquon Barkley just because, he came back, pretty much played full complement of snaps, looked pretty good. in a tough matchup against the Bills. Yeah, you mentioned Wandell. I mean, last week was like the perfect case scenario for him to hit his ceiling. 8 targets, caught all of them, and he ended up with 14 fantasy points. I mean, it's really hard for him to have a breakout game with that low A dot, and he's just not a big weapon in the red zone either.
Josh Jacobs, 7,400 may also be, on the hot. But if you're going to pay up at running back, I mean, it's hard. I mean, people don't like playing Josh Jacobs. I mean, it's just like the fantasy community hates the guy, but you can't deny that his workload is elite. The problem is the Raiders aren't very good, right?
Yeah.
Right. And we saw the last game, Zamir White was out a little more often than I expected him to be on the field. Do you think Josh Jacobs, they're a 3-point road favorite against the Bears? I mean, I play Josh Jacobs way more than I play like the guy like NOTO. This is my life every week.
Okay.
I'm gonna plug in Jacobs into some lineups. I'm gonna plug in Joe Mixon into some lineups. It's like Rashad White. Like I'm just always David Montgomery is another one, right? It's like you tell me that there's a running back that's gonna touch the ball on average 25 times in a game. Like I know that when they showed the red zone and he runs into the line for 3 yards, that it just kills me. Just like my brain melts. But like from a statistical standpoint, it's like, yeah, if he has an efficient game, it's nuclear because of the amount of touches. How much interest do you have in the Raiders-Bears game in general? Because at a 37.5 total, this game could be a shit show.
Could be. Could also be a great game to stack. I mean, these are two of the worst defenses in the NFL. The Bears are 30th in total DVOA. 29th. The Raiders are 23rd. So, I mean, it could be a decent game to stack if we get some points early. I think Devontae Adams is interesting. A little squeaky wheel narrative there. Josh Jacobs, always interesting, but never a guy that I get right. So I'll probably have more interest in this game than most on the slate, even though it does have a pretty low total. What did you think about Badgett? Or I don't really watch much college football, so is he a decent quarterback?
Like you're talking to me? I don't watch any college football.
Yeah, okay.
Didn't he play for like some Division III team? I mean, like he didn't even play for a Division I team.
So pretty good then.
Do you think they're going to let him throw the ball much?
I don't know. He looked pretty good last week, but obviously they were down 2 scores against the Vikings, so can't really put too much stock into that. Did have a question from Michael. He's saying, hasn't Washington been cheeks on defense? Love the word cheeks. That's one of my favorite words to describe something. Yeah, they have been pretty bad. Bottom 5 against the pass, and they've allowed the second most to quarterbacks, the 4th most to fantasy points to wide receivers. So maybe we do need some more Giants in our lives.
Well, who do we play on the Giants? I think that's the kind of the problem. The Giants suck.
Saquon.
Right? But I mean, yeah, but outside of Saquon, I mean, like if you're going to like, oh, I'm going to stack, I'm going to go, and I'm going to stack Daniel Jones.
Could this be the Daniel Jones game finally?
They have an 18.7. They're 2-point home underdog, and they have like 5 receivers that they throw 2 passes to each. If they even if they complete them, I'm with you. If Saquon's going to be like 5% owned, I'd much rather take it. 8,100 he's overpriced. But if it's possible he touches the ball 25 plus times, and he may have 6 receptions, right? He could put up 30 points. I mean, if anything, but who do you stack? What are you going to do? Wan'Dale Robinson, Darren Waller with Jones?
Yeah.
Are you going to do Slayton? I mean, like, it just feels like to me that
if Tyrod starts, he liked Slayton quite a bit in that game. Maybe Slayton's kind of his go-to guy.
Would you prefer to stack the Giants if Tyrod plays or if Daniel Jones plays?
I mean, Jones probably.
Would you prefer Barkley? Okay, you talked about Saquon Barkley because you look at him. Would prefer? I'm assuming based on the last game, you would much rather have Tyrod at quarterback because he's more. I mean, Tyrod runs the ball also, but I think Tyrod's much more likely to dump the ball off Daniel Jones is much more likely to just get sacked.
Sacked and hit hard, and he loves taking a good hit for a 1-yard gain. I don't understand why, but yeah, I'd probably rather have Tyrod under there. But either way, they're just going to give Saquon the ball a ton until they get down big, which is probably likely in every game moving forward.
Right, because I mean, Michael says that hasn't Washington been cheeks on defense. Have you seen the Giants' offensive line? Like, does it matter? I mean, does it? Well, their secondary is horrible. It's like, yeah, but Daniel Jones only has 1.2 seconds to even pass the ball to begin with because the offensive line. You might as well put a bed sheet and that be the offensive line and go just run through the flag and you have a free run every time.
How about Tyrod Taylor checking down to a run at the end of the first half of that game?
Oh,
Did you see that?
Was it confirmed that he checked it down to that he audibled that? I know Dable. I mean, some of these NFL coaches are bad, but Dable is not bad enough to call a run play with 14 seconds left and no timeout.
Dable originally yelled at the coordinator or whatever, and then the coordinator was like, I think you checked down. And so then Dable went after Tyrod. So I'm pretty sure he checked down. But yeah, that's pretty bad.
I tweeted it on Sunday. I mean, multiple times. It's like sometimes you see the worst play call in the history of you've ever watched football, and then the following week you find one even worse.
Yeah.
Right, clock man. It just feels like once the 2-minute warning hits, like that it just like everyone's brains just start turning to mush, and you just wonder, what is going on here?
The Josh McDaniels one is probably my favorite. Him saying, "Oh, we needed 2 scores when we were down 8." I thought that, and then he took the field goal from the.
No, I find in college football, I started watching some college football because I'm doing props in college football with our wonderful projections here that you should use. It's like these coaches just don't even know math. Just simply and it's almost like the broadcasters don't even know math. Like no one comments on that. I think there was a game I was watching. The team was down. They just scored a touchdown, and they were down 19 points. Right? They scored a touchdown. Now they're down 18 points, which means that in order to they just kicked the extra point. And I'm just like, well, now you're down 17 points, which is still 3 scores because the most you could do is 8 points. I mean, I'm like, am I not thinking about this right? Hold on. Let me do the math again. They're down 18 after this touchdown that they just scored. They're going to have to go for 2 at some point, right? Even if they do score other touchdowns. Why not go for it here? Because if you miss it, you're still down by 2 touchdowns and a field goal. And I have the commentary on, and no one it just happens. It just happens. They go to commercial, and I'm just sitting there going, and this is not early in the game. There's 3 minutes to go in the third quarter or something. So you went from going down 3 scores to being down 3 scores.
Maybe they were trying to protect that 17.5-point spread, but seriously, why can't teams just hire somebody specifically for clock management and decisions on whether to go for 2? It would be so easy.
NFL don't they have that?
Well, then why does this keep happening? Maybe only some guys.
Because the people in it's one of those things. I mean, you've seen the movie Moneyball, right?
Yeah.
Right. You see, it's the nerdy guy at the desk that people the tough old school coaches that are in the front office that, I have 40 years experience. Who cares about, we have these, we know things better. Look, we had that Lombardi piece, right? You saw that on Twitter or whatever like that. Analytics doesn't know who's on the field. No, analytics literally does know who's on the field. That's the point. That is literally when people use the term, it seems like so many old school people use the term analytics as if they don't realize what they're talking about is math. Right? It's just simply count. It's not some fancy, we ran it through a computer simulation or whatever like that. It's like, okay, let me give you an example. Okay, you you hit it, you tie the game with no time on the clock with a touchdown. Do you kick an extra point or do you go for 2? And they'd go, well, obviously we kicked the extra point. It's like, well, why do you kick it's tied 26-26 with no time on the clock in the fourth quarter. Why do you kick the extra point? It's like, well, because we win the game if we kick the extra point. It's like, how often are you going to miss the extra point? Said maybe 1% of the time in the NFL because, they hit most of them. It's like, okay, so what, if you go for 2, how often do you get that? It's like, maybe half the time. It's like, so that's the reason why you kick the extra point instead of going for 2, because you only need 1 point. Now, let's say you needed 2. Would you kick the extra point? It's like, well, kicking the extra point means we automatically lose the game. So that's 100% loss probability. It's like once you do it for the decisions that they normally make, they go, you see what you just did there? That's what all the other things are also. It's just that's the that is the most obvious things. And it just blows my mind that I'm more upset, Noto, at the broadcasters than I am at the coaches. It's like the coaches, at least they have to live and die by their decisions, right?
Yeah.
If they want to punt on 4th and 1 on the opposing 37 for some reason, and everyone makes fun of them on Twitter, well, they're in charge. If they want to screw it up, that's fine. But it's when the broadcasters, when you got the guy in the booth, the 57-year-old old coach that's like, no, I like Lee. You got to trust your defense there. Pin him back and have it trust your defense. And I'm like, screw this analytics. It's like, no, I get more upset at those people.
Yeah, I get it.
D-Pick has a question before we get out of here. It had nothing to do with the NFL.
That was
Speaking of college football, do you have thoughts on why most pros lock down quarterbacks in the super flex and almost solely running back in the flex?
I don't play college
football DFS.
I do not.
I'm assuming that it's because it's a super flex format. That stacking is the same, just like you would do in NFL. So like let's say in NFL DFS, instead of having a flex spot, we had a super flex spot. Like, wouldn't you much rather okay, I'm going to play Lamar Jackson, right, with Flowers and Andrews. And then I'm also going to play Geno Smith with Tyler Lockett in my lineup also, right? Because I have Geno Smith is 6K, right? So instead of playing Pacheco in my flex at 6,100, in my super flex, I play Geno Smith because I get the extra correlation. I get a second stack in my lineup, and typically quarterbacks have higher ranges of outcomes than running backs. So I'm assuming. Right. And right. T-Pick says quarterback makes sense. Running back seems like missing out on wide receiver ceilings. College football is way different, dude. There are running backs that they give the ball 32 times to, and they catch 6 balls out of the backfield. College football is very much one team could be much more physically dominating over the other. Right, Noto? NFL, it's even the best team and the worst team are not that far apart. But in college football, I see some of these stat lines because I'm doing college football props, and it's oh yeah, this guy got 12 catches for 241 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's you don't really see that in the NFL. So I think we're looking for those types of players in the super flex.
Yeah, the last time I played college football DFS, Giovanni Bernard was playing college, so a long time ago. I think he was at UNC. I had a great team, I thought, and Bernard had 8 touchdowns or something, and I didn't have him, and I didn't cash. So I was like, "Oh, I'm done with college football."
Right. In college football, if we saw totals like this, you just close your laptop and say, "I ain't playing the slate," because these are, some of these college football totals are oh, I get to choose between one of the 68 or 72.5 total games, and maybe not the 42.5 one. Right? NFL, in college football, if there's a team total of 39.5, you're probably not playing anyone in that game like that. Those guys are going to be very low owned, except for maybe some workhorse running back for because these are two teams that probably just power run the ball often, and you do something like that. But you know what I always say? Take a look at the projections, right? We have them here. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month of a premium RotoGrinders membership. You get all the tools, you get all the projections, you get all the content, you get all props and pick 'em package, right? If you don't even want to play DFS, you just want to bet on props, on Pick'em, Underdog, Prize Picks. We got that for you. We got college football projections for the 2 games that are going on tonight. I already have props in. I don't know who any of these people are, but I just take a look at one number and go, that number's lower than that number. I'm going to bet on that number. Right? Right? It's not very complicated. And we have a team here that handles all that. NHL, we got 2 NHL games tonight. I already have NHL props in. Right? You look at the projections and go, oh, okay. Undershots on goal on this guy. And Noto, you know what I have to do for NHL? It's only been a week in. I'm getting better now, Noto.
Okay.
The one thing that we don't have that I miss on some of the projection screens is like what team the guy is on. Now, obviously in NFL, if you say like Josh Allen over passing yards, it's like, okay, let me go to the Buffalo Bills props and then go there. So a lot of times for the NHL props, I need to Google the person's name.
Yeah.
Just to know what team to go to.
Yeah.
So for 2 games tonight, it's pretty easy because there's only really 4. There's only 2 games that I can click on. But yesterday for 8 games, it's just like, okay, what team is Connor McDavid on? Right? And it's like, how do you not know one of the best players in the NHL? It's like this, I haven't followed NHL since like Wayne Gretzky played.
Yeah.
So I don't know. No. Yeah, you wanted to add something?
No, I was just going to say, if you are playing props, especially on Prize Picks, I like a lot of the unders for some golf this week. It's going to be really windy.
So what do you like?
Really windy the first 2 days, especially on Friday. And right now, a lot of the birdie or betters on Prize Picks are all set at 4 or 3.5. So I'm going to be taking some unders there.
Anyone in particular?
I haven't looked. I just pulled it up before the show started. So if hop in the Discord.
Basically, in general, people should look out that the weather's concerned. The weather this weekend for the first 2 rounds is so that the course may play a stroke or 2 harder.
Yeah, 30-mile-per-hour winds on Friday. So, and this
that
is one of those
priced into the lines.
It's in Japan, so it's locking tomorrow night at 7:45 Eastern.
That's a normal time. If golf locked like that, I wouldn't have to set an alarm to see who withdraws at 6 a.m.
That's true.
Okay, so people could find you at RG_Notorious on Twitter. You're occasionally in the Discord, so join us there, rotogrinders.com/Discord. You'll have all your pieces out. NBA's coming back, Noto. Are you looking forward to? You're doing the grind down, right? Typically,
so
right?
We're not doing the grind down. I think we're doing it 2 days a week, and Taylor is going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing the core plays. I'm taking over that for me and Z.
Oh, so it's going to be Noto's core plays.
Yeah.
You sound very like.
No, I
you live up. I mean, Meansy has been doing core plays for premium members for ages. Are you going to take over the same type of format that he switched to, where he talks about the slate in general rather than like here's like the guys? Because everything changes in NBA. Like from 11, you write it at 11 in the morning, by 6 o'clock at night. Like you might as well have just thrown it in the trash, right?
Yeah, so I did it 2 days a week last year, so I'm pretty used to it. But yeah, basically broad slate overview in the morning, and then as the injury news comes out, talk about more plays and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm happy to not be doing the grind down. That thing has been a grind over the years, so I'm okay seeing it go by.
Well, isn't that the name of the site?
Yeah.
Right. Everything's a grind.
I mean, when in those 14 game slates, writing 500 words on each one is just not fun.
Especially the 206 total Jazz game. That's like, I don't like anyone here.
And then everything you write means nothing 2 hours later because of injuries.
Right. So check out the NBA content that'll be starting up next week. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Swolecast later today. We got there's not much going on, right? And there's a MLB playoffs, tomorrow's showdown. We got PGA. We got soccer coming up, college football, all the content for you. I'll be back, as I always am, Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders today.